Good morning, Nolan, Bitcoiner. Another day of the breakup. Another hopefully quick lesson on how and why you should break up with the fiat system. We treat it as a psychological state. It's not about trading dollars for Bitcoin. It really is about changing your mindset, changing your time preference, and just seeing the world through a lens of money you can save versus money that you shouldn't save. So let's get at it. Today's first story that I want to sort of riff on is from Sarah Jung. And this we've got here with this whiteboard is the basic needs matrix, right? You heard about basic needs, food, shelter, water. To those, there's been a few pieces added. Food, shelter, water. It's not just food, shelter, water. Food, shelter, water were the acceptable basic needs for human beings, universally acknowledged, for many years before. But recently that's changed, and I think it's appropriate. So the basic human needs now do also include education. I've changed shelter and some parts of clothes into just money, but there's probably better ways to look at it, but you'll have to suspend it for now. But I think this is pretty much it. So you've got food, you've got money, you've got security, and you've got education. These are what I'm arguing are the basic needs for the purpose of this little episode, right? So let's get into it. Sarah Jung, who has been helping as an editor over at the New York Times for quite a while, said one of the stupidest things. Let me just get it up so I read it correctly. Said one of the stupidest things that anyone has ever said publicly. She said it publicly, right? So we've all said stupid stuff. I've said a lot of stupid things, but saying something this dumb publicly is pretty bad. And it tells us a lot about the world we live in. So I'll read it for you. So Sarah Jung said, all the stuff you see about inflation in the news is driven by rich people flipping their shit because their parasitic assets aren't doing, let me read it here. Their parasitic assets aren't doing as well as they'd like, and they're scared that unemployment benefits, plus stimmy checks, plus $15 minimum wage, plus later labor shortage is why. Okay. So she's saying that rich people are flipping their shit because of inflation, and that they've misidentified inflation as unemployment benefits, stimmy checks, and minimum wage, and later labor shortage. And so the argument she has is that somehow their assets aren't performing well, right? And that it's because of these things, and then they're pissed off. Understand that most rich people, including current day Bitcoiners, love inflation. They don't love what it's doing to people. Let's be clear, right? No one loves what it's doing to people, but the active inflation is a rocket booster for Bitcoin. And if people don't know that, then most Bitcoiners were implicitly hoping for this in a sense. It's now hoping means, I don't hope that inflation comes and hurts people. That's not what they're actually hoping for. But most Bitcoiners felt it was inevitable that inflation would come after the financial crisis of 2008, therefore have already been sharing, storing, using Bitcoin for that reason. That's why they hodl, right? It's a long-term outlook that the economic system is broken, that the money is broken, and that you need something better, and that the symptoms will be inflation. Look, Sarah Jung, I don't think predicted inflation years ago. I don't think, we're going to get to education in a second, and this, what I call this basic needs echo chamber. She's not really the person who's predicted this stuff, so be careful about who's predicted and who hasn't. But let's look a bit at these four sort of basic needs fails and why you would want to break up with the fiat system the way it is and order this way. So here's the money piece. Food, right? Everyone's always saying we need, you've got to have proper nutrition in the world. And everyone agrees with that, right? Um, but what we've learned over time is that a lot of the food we're eating is, of course, not healthy. So this episode is not about proving this is unhealthy or that is unhealthy, right? Merely that we can be sure that our system, the fiat system, does provide a tremendous amount of food, right? It provides the individual here with a tremendous amount of food, right? The worry is the food quality is not that good. So while the food is being supplied, if the food doesn't actually help the person, right? So if the food is, fattening, if the food, I don't mean fat food, I mean fattening, the person gets fat, right? Fat to eat is another story. But fattening food, so that could be chips and fast food and all these things that most Americans live off of. And then we got education here, right? Education. So we've got our universities, we've got you know the high school system, the public education system, and that's what the state is sort of helping provide, right? So the state is providing money, the system is providing food, right? And when I say the state is providing money, it's a combination of the actual institutions of the state, so the judiciary, the legislative, the executive branch, the whole collection of our government, and then the separate entities that are private, like the Federal Reserve and those guys. So when I say state, I'm in this sense meaning our society more. It's the larger context. Um, Food, very similar, right? I'm not talking about EBT and food stamps, right? I'm talking about the food that systemically is produced and consumed in large amounts. Education, once again, it's the public school system, private school system, university system, state schools, all of it, right? It's our education system. And finally, here, security, right? Security. So that's guns, that's the police, that's the judiciary, that's the right of seizure, um, the right to not have your property seized by the government without compensation, habeas corpus, right? The right to your body not being imprisoned. So security is provided by the state, and also, of course, enforced by the state. So they have certain exclusions which allow them to use force and to negotiate that. So the basic needs of the person today, right, are money, food, education, and security. Now, the reason why you should break up is because these four aspects, the basic needs sort of matrix here, are absolutely failing, right? And Sarah Jung is a perfect example, right? She went to all the best schools in the world. This is a fiat dream. I don't remember. It's the Ivy League. It's all that, right? And so she goes immediately, from her Ivy League education, uh, you know, talking about money. It's clear she has no clue about money. She has it completely backwards, and I don't think it's a matter of opinion. She has it completely backwards, right? Rich people are not complaining about inflation. They're warning about inflation. There's a major difference between warning about inflation and complaining about it, right? The people complaining about it are the ones that she's saying are somehow creating the threat that rich people are worried about, the stimmy checks and the minimum wage and all that stuff. That is not, they're the ones suffering. They're the ones complaining. They're the ones crying about it, right? I feel bad for everyone I see at the grocery store right now. I can't believe the prices. I don't know how people are paying for this. Not everyone did well like us, folks who have bitcoins and all the rest of it, right? I mean, that's not what happened. Um, the folks who are suffering right now are the ones who are on some form of fixed income, and it's simply not keeping pace with the increased prices we're seeing. So that's a major part of it, right? So this matrix here, right? This basic needs matrix, the thing that ends up happening, and we can see it, right? We can see it. In the news, you can see all kinds of examples of these sort of aspects failing, right? So the money, the inflation piece, education. Here's another story in Detroit today. They're going to be closing the public school system down 1 day a week until Christmas in order to do a deep clean for COVID, right? Deep clean. All right. So that sounds like a great idea, right? Except that we've known for quite a while. we've known for quite a while that COVID doesn't last long outside of the human body. A deep clean for COVID can be achieved by everyone going home at night at a school, and that's it. Right? Everybody goes home, the school's empty. That's a deep clean for COVID. It is. COVID's dead after that, as far as I understand. Now, maybe I'm wrong, but it's my impression that this is somewhat established, and that the best method here is probably just get some fans, get some air purifiers, right? We've seen that airplanes have been not the big transmission places that some worried about. Ventilation looks like a major factor in beating COVID and keeping the spread from happening at really high rates, right? So ventilation, wind, all those things, super effective. And a deep clean at a school could probably be avoided by opening the windows and everyone going home at night, right? It's almost the opposite of putting in an extra cleaning team. So the point is, the kids are the victims here. They're just being forgotten. They're not getting the basics of education, right? They're not getting it. Let's take security, right? And an unbelievable story today. Just disgusting and so sad to watch the number of drug overdoses and the increase in drug overdoses that have happened since the beginning of COVID and lockdowns in America. And some pretty morbid thresholds have been passed, including the 100,000 dead mark, which happened yesterday. First time ever, 100,000 overdoses. 100,000 overdoses. That's about 40%. I think it was around 60 before COVID, right? So we've almost doubled the amount of overdoses that Americans are dying from, right? So security is not really being provided in the way you'd like, right? Like the COVID at its worst, without the debates and fighting and lockdowns, killed only slightly more people per year than the drug overdose increases, right? They're in the same ballpark. They're in the same universe. So we've got the money from the society that's not really providing much. We've got the education not providing too much. We've got security, not so safe. And food, not so healthy, right? So the basic needs here are producing fat, stupid people who die of drugs and are poor, right? that's what's happening, right? Fat, stupid people dying of overdoses, poor, right? Now, that's why you should break up with the system. Because the best case scenario we can see right now, we can see the best case scenario of this. And it's actually happening. It's happening in a school board election. And this is another prediction. So I'm going to try and make a prediction here. We're seeing it in a school board election. And it's in a college, a student, school board election, and the students or the people running are getting criticized for things they tweeted on social media when they were teenagers, right? 13, 14, right? So that's the story. Maybe it's not a school, it's a school union. I'm missing the details, but anyway, the point is, it's a few folks that have started with this, and they're having this fight, right? So they're having the fight, and they're uncovering and encountering all these old emails, posts, and etc. So what is happening? The echo chamber, so these folks are all liberal university, all going for liberal positions, all going for this old sort of basic needs world, right? They're student unions, so they're talking about food and education stuff. So what ends up happening is this echo chamber is more like a meat grinder, right? The people who are in the middle and still existing within this realm are getting torn apart by the people who are still there. And the reason why it's become a meat grinder is because these exit strategies, here have emptied out most of the folks, in the middle. I'll be right back, guys. I just got to do one thing. Oh, never mind. Done for me. I had a vacuum going on upstairs. I needed to go stop it. So this, the folks in here, right? This was an echo chamber. It's become a bit of a meat grinder because of the avenues to escape which have started to exist. The reasons to escape, Bitcoin has let a lot of people out of this box here, right? Because it's fixed the money. Now, a lot of Bitcoiners talk often about the food, right? They're anti-seed oils. They're anti-carbohydrates. They eat keto. They've spread a lot of information about dieting, right? And the right food you should put in. For education, most Bitcoiners have gone charter schools. They've gone classical education. Homeschooling is super popular, right? So they're exiting this chamber as well, right? They're getting education. The basic needs are being met. Money, right? Food is being communally thought of. And a lot of Bitcoiners are becoming homesteaders for that reason, right? Because the food to Bitcoiners that is produced industrially is no longer acceptable. Like industrially produced chicken, industrially produced beef, right? Bitcoiners don't want it. Bitcoiners want homestead, raised, grass-fed. That's what they spend their money on, right? They spend their money on the good food. So charter, homeschool, right? That's been the exit plan there. And now security, right? Because it's not being provided really by the state anymore at all, right? We've got a massive drug problem, heavily influenced by the economic situation in the United States. Massive drug problem, heavily influenced by the economic situation. And the result is there really isn't a lot of security. What are Bitcoiners doing? Bitcoiners are becoming anonymous or pseudonymous. Of course, Bitcoiners are into guns, right? Second Amendment is, for most Bitcoiners, part of the plan, right? It's part of the plan. So they're not really looking to the state for as much security as you might imagine, right? It's a bit of a take it in your own hands situation. This is not the equivalent to do your own research, right? We're not asking in any of these aspects here to take things from the state that would be otherwise too complicated, right? Saving your money in a different form, it's the same, it's just better. Food, better choices, right? Just some better choices. Education, a little bit of a responsibility on the individuals to do it, but I think the tools to make it easy and scalable for everybody are going to be possible. So I was a teacher before I was a lawyer and before I got into Bitcoin. I was a teacher between my undergrad. It's kind of one of those, you do camp counseling and then you go to grad, undergrad, you're a student, and then between my undergrad and law school, I was a substitute teacher. First, I was a teacher in Korea just as a break, and then when I came back and went to law school as a substitute high school teacher in Canada. So that's how I'm going to take over my own children's education, is that I just have, I've got experience, but not everyone has my experience. So I'm not suggesting you need it, but I believe the number of charter schools, the number of classical education schools, the number of institutions that are going to cater to bespoke tastes of parents that aren't in the vein of the old private schools are going to increase. That's a prediction, right? So the point is the basic needs, right? The basic needs have become an echo chamber, a self-sustaining echo chamber. And if you can't see through these walls, you get stuck inside and you end up being like Sarah Jung, who's a moron, a real idiot. She's dumb, right? Don't follow her. Don't read the New York Times and follow this stupid moron. She got stuck here. She got stuck here. She got stuck here. She doesn't understand what's happening. She probably eats well because, she did these things well. But she's part of the meat grinder, right? She's there to keep people inside, right? They have to, because a lot of people left. I left. Most people that knew Bitcoin left. That's what this show is about. It's about how to get out of the echo chamber and not get caught up in the meat grinder, right? It's Bitcoin. It's better food. Don't send your kids to anything resembling a state school. That's child abuse, right? And in the end, don't just do it because there's some security, right? The security's not there. You're going to be poor, unhealthy, stupid, and on drugs. There's no way out besides that, unfortunately. But these avenues, these are wide open holes out of this echo chamber, right? And this is the best one. This is the first one. Do this one and it will change your life. Definitely get into that. All of them important, right? All of them important. But your basic needs are far better met this way with these avenues outside than they ever were staying in this echo chamber, because this thing's a kill box. Get out. Break up. All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Another episode of The Breakup. Thanks.